World War I was a conflict which would alter society forever. After 4 years of continuous fighting, a war in which millions of lives were lost, the alliance, most predominantly embodied by Germany, finally began to crumble. On the 6th of November 1918, German High Command opened communications with Woodrow Wilson on one topic: the possibility of a ceasefire. 5 days later, the war would officially be over, as the Germans signed the armistice with the Allies. The world, from here on, was forever changed. The result of the war would be tremendous. It would create a shift in politics, economics, culture and social order, and was drastically different to the pre-war values and sentiments held by all nations in the world. Undeniably, the largest impact of World War I was the monumental loss of life for all participating nations. The French had lost approximately 1.4 million military personnel and over 300,000 civilians, and Russia, the country which pulled out 1 year before the end of the war, sustained a loss of 1.8 million soldiers and a massive 1.5 million civilians. Overall, the total loss of life, directly or indirectly caused by World War I, is almost impossible to actually pin a figure to, but historians have estimated it to be around 16 million people. The war had several effects upon Britain, most of them far from good. It went from being amongst the leading industrial powers and overseas investors in the world, and was experiencing a golden age of industry from 1900 to 1914, to being one of the world's biggest debtors. Every 4 months in the war, the country turned over a national debt that was more than the combined expenditure of the Napoleonic Wars of 1799 to 1815. Additionally, the influence of Britain within its colonial nations began to diminish, as the war granted greater diplomatic autonomy to the British-occupied zones, such as Canada, Australia and New Zealand. When men returned back home, the social standards and values had changed significantly. The war gave women occupations, and when men returned, the women expressed a nationalistic patriotism and drive to help in the recuperation of the nation. However, some 750,000 women became redundant immediately after the war, and industries soon phased out women in some forms of occupation. For British women at least, the war would bring them enfranchisement, a movement unprecedented in the history of British politics. Nations and political powers of the world went to the drawing board to redistribute power. The once great Ottoman Empire was destroyed as a result of the war. Germany and her colonies were dissolved into much smaller states, and Austria-Hungary was also readjusted. Finland, Poland, Turkey, Czechoslovakia were born as a result of the war. Russia also lost some land, including parts which would make up the new state of Poland, which they would seek back in 1939. The most major political shift in the world would be in Germany, following the birth of the Weimar Constitution, the first democracy for the losing state. The country was set to face dark years of political extremism, embodied by failed revolutions from the beer hall push to the attempt by Wolfgang Kapp, economic instability, such as the hyperinflation of 1923, and also the Great Depression later in 1929, and exploitation from the Allies, such as the invasion of the Ruhr also in 1923. In this new section of history, we consolidate 3 major events as a result of the war: the Treaty of Versailles, the League of Nations, and the Weimar government. Welcome to the post-war years of 1918 to 1930.